Woo! Hey, it's Friday, and you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Go ahead, text me 309-451-9299. Real quick, show us your game. Show us your game. That's still going on. You've got a couple more days to enter. You can win a $500 gift certificate to Guns and Glory, and they've got rifles, they've got handguns. It's a amazing place. They've got Bibles in case you just don't need a firearm and you just want to equip yourself with the sword, right? So Guns and Glory in Leroy, Illinois, they're teaming up with us, a $500 gift card. Plus, there's a free deer processing from Bloomington Meats, a $100 gift card to Quinn Scholes Taxidermy. So go ahead, show us your game. You submit a picture of yourself to be entered to win, and then we randomly select a winner, and we're going to notify you. So go ahead, show us your trophy bucks, pheasant, quails, and ducks. Although I don't think those guys are in season. Let me know. I'm not a hunter, so I know it's buck season. I know that you can go and shoot some deer. But let me know on our text line. Can you hunt pheasants right now in Illinois, and quails and ducks? Can you do that right now? Probably not, I would imagine. Pretty sure it's just buck season, or like just deer season, and that ends actually in just a couple of days. So you only have a short period of time to enter to win. All right, I do have so much news to get to today. I am going to get really local here in the first hour, in the 6 o'clock hour. I want to talk about former county board candidate Chad Burke, because he's got some cojones, okay? He's got some cojones, and he's willing to file this official complaint with the State Board of Elections, and he's alleging that these McLean County officials violated the Campaign Disclosure Act. Explosive story. They're put on notice by the Illinois State Board of Elections. Not only that, he's filing a complaint with he's given it a copy to the district attorney, so the state's attorney, Erica Reynolds. He's also going to give a copy to and he's already informed the Ethics Commission. So there's a McLean County Ethics Commission. Now, not only did they violate state law, allegedly, but they also violated a code of ethics that's outlined in the McLean County Code of Ethics. Okay, so he officially filed a complaint with the McLean County, or sent out a letter. And what happens from there is the McLean County Board chair, but in this case, the allegations are against the chair, Lizzie Johnson. So this is going to be really interesting because she probably has to pass it off to her vice chair, Jim Rogel, to appoint 3 members. I think it's a 3-member commission. It's called an ethics commission, and they have to appoint a 3-member commission, an ethics commission. And the ethics commission reviews it, and then they kind of rule on it. And the commission is made up of board members, I believe. So yeah, explosive stuff. He is giving everybody a copy of this thing. He wants something done, and he's willing to see this thing through to the end. So good for him. He had the cojones to do it. I also want to talk about Dick Durbin, who wants to protect dreamers, aka DACA recipients. And you should know that most DACA recipients are not kids. This is what really bothers me about the language of the left. They'll say, oh, it's a deferred action childhood arrivals program, right? DACA, that's what that stands for. They're not children. The average age of the recipient for DACA is like 30, and it's mostly men who come over on that program, DACA. So not children. Okay, he doesn't want to protect children. He wants to protect dreamers. Average age, like I said, 30 years old. These are adults that are coming over, and he wants to protect them amidst a fast approaching Trump administration. So we're going to get to all of that. Plus, this parental rights group, Moms for Liberty, out of Lake County, spoke with the chair there. She's great. And her name is Marsha McClary, and she talked about Trump's nominee for Surgeon General. There's a lot of good picks, but there's a lot of bad. This is the worst pick. I hope that she declines the nomination and she does the right thing. This woman, who was the pick for Surgeon General. We're going to talk about how parents' rights groups, they're upset about this pick. Naturally, right? This Surgeon General took a favorable position on masking children and forcing children to be vaccinated. So Let's talk about it. But first, I do want to get into this story. Chad Burke, breaking news, breaking news. He's filing an official complaint. He plans to drive it up there with the State Board of Elections. He's already put all the defendants on notice. He's sent a letter to the ethics commission for an ethics commission to, read this letter and kind of get together. Now the chair has to appoint the members of the ethics commission. So this is going to be interesting. Now, this is all in regards to that email, Trevor Sierra. I don't know what exactly happened, how he managed to get fired. He wouldn't talk about the nature of why he got fired. Tried to reach out to him. It was kind of like, prying teeth or, trying to get him to talk. But he just kept referring me to his statement, and that's okay. His statement is pretty damning, not to mention the text messages between he and Lizzie where he was issued a refund. But this story is so much bigger than I think media is reporting. They're dismissing it as an unethical conduct. This is possibly a violation of state law. It's a violation of ethics, the McLean County ethics. And after talking with Chad Burke, I realized, dang, I can't find a PAC either. Okay, so in this email, County Board Chair Elizabeth Johnston and County Administrator Cassie Taylor, they've been accused by this former attorney who worked in the state's attorney's office. His name is Trevor Sierra, of soliciting and collecting funds for a PAC established to support the referendum eliminating the county auditor position. Now, you guys know where I stand on eliminating the county auditor position. I think that was silly. They've been after this since 2014, and it's not shocking because pretty much every county auditor has been on the ropes. They've been attacked simply for just being county auditors. Their whole purpose, their whole job is to ensure accountability and transparency in government and to make sure your government is not misusing taxpayer funds, which can happen. So here's the email, part of it. Part of the email from Trevor Sierra exposed Cassie Taylor specifically by name and Elizabeth Johnson by name. It says, on Thursday, September 19th, Ms. Taylor stated that fundraising efforts were not satisfactory. Up to this point, people had been going around collecting donations for this PAC that I can't find, that was established in support of the referendum eliminating the county auditor position. And then the email goes on, we're not satisfactory, and she asked me to call State's Attorney Erica Reynolds to inquire whether Circuit Judge Don Knapp or other allies would be willing to contribute to the PAC. Now, something obviously had to have happened where this guy got fired, and then he released this statement shortly after getting fired, right? Terminated. He was terminated. We know this, but we don't know the nature of why he was terminated. Could it be he called somebody and that somebody said, what are you doing? You cannot do this. This is against the law. You're calling, the state's attorney, Erica Reynolds. You're calling a circuit judge, Don Knapp, and you're asking them for funds on company time, on government property, right? You can't do that. These people know the law. And maybe somebody said, hey, Trevor, you can't do this. And then they kind of had a knee-jerk reaction and terminated him because they realized, oh, man, this is bad. We got to terminate this guy. I don't know. But something had to have happened. It was a catalyst as to why he was terminated. I don't know what the nature of his termination is. So Ms. Taylor explicitly stated, quote, if asked about this conversation, I will lie, and stated, and this was all stated in the email by Trevor Sierra to the board members, okay? So this is what he, is alleging Cassie Taylor had said to him, if asked about this conversation, me asking you to, solicit State's Attorney Erica Reynolds and Circuit Judge Don Knapp for funds, if asked about this conversation of me asking you to do this, I will lie. So now, fast forward, we've got Chad Burke, who ran against Elizabeth Johnson in 2024 for county board, and he was defeated. He said without an investigation, he can't really disavow or deny that Johnson could have been collecting the funds for her own race against him. Uh, so, I mean, yeah, your mind starts to wander a bit. Wait a second, I can't find this PAC. Now, I don't know if the PAC was immediately dissolved, the PAC that was established to support the referendum. But he goes into discussing with me, Chad Burke, he did his own little investigation, and he's like, there is no employer identification number, EIN, with the IRS, which you have to do, or which there has to be one. Now, the PAC doesn't necessarily have to be registered. It kind of depends on, collection thresholds like $5,000 and expenditures of $1,000. If the PAC doesn't do that, or if they don't manage to collect $5,000, they don't have to register the PAC with the state. So here's what Chad said. He goes, me and my family, we worked hard on this campaign. Randy Knapp, another defeated candidate of Johnston's, he worked hard on his campaign, and we don't know where these funds intermingle. Perhaps, and I'm just saying, without an investigation, we can't know if Elizabeth Johnson collected those funds and put them right into her campaign. You know how bad that would be? I mean, it's bad that she's doing it with the referendum, if that turns out to be the case, and if that's what the evidence proves, that she was collecting the funds for the referendum to eliminate the county auditor and for this PAC. But we don't even know. We haven't seen any financials. We don't know where this money ultimately went. Could it have been for her own campaign? And you know how bad that sounds. You got the vice chair then. She was a vice chair. And you've got the county administrator. These people's bosses, they're high up in county government, okay? You don't get much higher than county administrator and vice chair, except if you were the chair, I suppose. But those are pretty high positions. Your boss is walking around collecting donations, and I like what Chad Burke had told me about this example. He goes, look, if you were at State Farm, private sector, State Farm, and you as a boss go around and collect money for your kid's baseball team, you would be escorted out. You would be fired immediately. It's very unprofessional for your boss to be going around soliciting funds from your employees or people that you have the ability to fire. That's a big no-no. He goes, say you're a maintenance guy for the county and the county administrator and the then vice chair of the county board is collecting donations. You're going to put up $100. You won't hesitate because you want your job. You want to gain favorability with your superiors. I mean, it's only natural to want to do that. So yeah, you can't have these types of shenanigans. I like how Chad Burke puts it. He says campaigns and elections are vital for the life of this country. We cannot have shenanigans. You have to have free and fair elections, and that includes not electioneering, not going around and illegally soliciting funds for PACs that we can't even find. Okay, so and I'm saying allegedly. We don't know. There has to be an investigation done. We need to know. Who knows? She could have been collecting these funds, going around Johnston in this email. Trevor Sierra says she went around the county office, the county administrator's office, and was collecting funds. Who knows what she was using the money for? She could have been going around collecting the funds for her rent, okay, at the end of the month. We don't know. I'd like to see the money and where that money actually went. So in a text message conversation between Johnson and Sierra, this is a huge deal because Sierra urged Johnson to issue a refund because, quote, the funds were solicited in violation of state law. Now, there is a state law. It's called, and you can look this up, the Campaign Disclosure Act, that lays it out and says, hey, you can't solicit funds on government property with government resources on government time. You can't do it. So yeah, he asked for a refund. He got the refund. And Burke explained that if the PAC collected less than $5,000, also I think it's like $1,000 if they have expenditures of over $1,000, they have to register with the state. And I understand if they didn't meet those thresholds, they wouldn't be registered with the state. But here's the thing, you have to also have an EIN with the IRS, and we can't find one. I can't find one. Burke says, I didn't find anything with the Federal Elections Commission or the Illinois Elections Board. I talked with them, the Illinois Elections Board, and they said that they don't have any record of a PAC being created for this referendum at all. So, like I said, Sierra did get this refund, which suggests to me, Lizzie in these text messages, she doesn't appear to say, hey, by the way, we didn't collect these in violation of state law. You're wrong. She issued the refund, which is indicative of, she's not denying that they violated state law in collecting these funds. She's not saying she did violate state law in these text messages, but by issuing the refund, it kind of indicates guilt. I'm just going to say that. That's what it looks like to me. I like this in the part of the email. All solicitations described herein took place at the government center. No promises or threats were made regarding my contributions. There's an indirect. You're using your position of power, though, in influence over others, and you're collecting funds. He says, quote, I regret my participation in these activities and offer my sincere apologies to the county auditor, Michelle Anderson, each of you, and most importantly, the taxpayers of McLean County. So I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll pick up with the story, and I do want to get to Dick Durbin. Dick Durbin is scared for the Dreamers, right, because of the incoming Trump administration. I'll be right back with that story next. So, you can talk with Chad. The best way to kind of go about this would be to just hit him at every single angle. I don't know if you can file multiple complaints. I'd imagine you would. So what Chad Burke did, and I'll get to this, he filed, as a McLean County resident, he filed as a McLean County taxpayer, and as a former candidate, right? So naturally, he's going to start to have questions, being that this woman was his opponent, and she's going around and she is possibly allegedly illegally collecting funds, soliciting funds for a campaign. Okay. Now, what's to stop her? So say ultimately, we find out that she did in fact collect it for some PAC that we can't find, right? And say we wind up finding that PAC, which I don't know if we're going to. Say we wind up finding that PAC and it all checks out, that all of the money was illegally collected to go to this PAC. Because remember, even if it's going to a PAC established in support of a referendum, that's still wrong. It's just as wrong as if you were going around the office collecting donations on your behalf as a candidate in your race, okay, for your campaign coffers. It's just as bad. But say, it checks out that she was actually collecting the funds for the referendum. If there's no accountability, if people don't get fired, if people aren't forcibly removed from their office after this investigation is conducted, and we prove that, hey, they actually collected funds illegally from people, and they contributed to this PAC that was set up to remove the county auditor, okay, or for this referendum. If they aren't held accountable, what's to stop them from the next election cycle doing the exact same thing? But in this go around, the next election cycle, you've got Lizzie Johnson going around with a bucket saying, donate to my campaign. Okay, if there's no accountability here, and if people aren't fired or forcibly removed from offices, we're dealing with, our elections are meaningless at that point. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. We can't have meaningful elections if you have current sitting county officials. That's propaganda. That's the very definition of propaganda, and forcing your way into public office by using your position of power to keep that office by walking around with a bucket every election cycle and having your underlings donate to your campaign. Okay, so You can't have free and fair elections if this continues to go on, if there isn't accountability. Now, maybe the investigation turns up zilch. We don't know, but there should be one, and good on Chad because he actually filed the complaint and he's going about it the official way. So to answer your question, I would file an official complaint with the ethics board. The McLean County Ethics Board. Chad said that it's a very easy way to go about this. You can actually file an official complaint with the State Board of Elections. Being that there's already one filed for the same reason, I don't know what they do with that. They might consolidate it, but if multiple people were to officially complain to the State Board of Elections or to the McLean County Ethics Commission, that could probably go a long way because Chad wouldn't be alone. If there's multiple complaints, then that shows that there was significant damage to multiple people. And it would probably go a long way. Say there's like 10 complaints against, Lizzie Johnson and Cassie Taylor. Then, if the Ethics Commission still rules that they should keep their jobs, people are going to really scratch their heads. Wait a second, there's 10 official complaints against these people. Why did they still have their jobs? So, yeah, I would definitely say file a complaint with the Illinois State Board of Elections. I don't know how to go about that process. I've never done it before. I can't do it as a McLean County resident because I don't live in McLean County. I live in Logan, the county over. So I would do it if I live in McLean County, but I'm kind of removed from that because I didn't even vote in this election cycle. So there's no real damages to me other than, it's damaging our election process, and the way McLean County votes matters to me because the whole state, right, is flipping blue. And is it flipping blue artificially? Did McLean County flip blue artificially because of the electioneering going on or because of the illegal solicitation of funds? I don't know because there hasn't been an investigation. Now, if it turns up that, yes, they did illegally solicit funds, they did illegally campaign, because that's illegally campaigning. You can't use government resources and government property to campaign. And if it turns out that that's true, then there's a big question mark over our election in McLean County. Was it fair? Was it true? And it's really embarrassing that this is going on in McLean County. I lived in McLean County for years, 7 years almost. And it's shocking. And this would never fly in the private sector. It just wouldn't. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. I'd like to know what I can do, if anything. What can constituents do? Can we sign up petitions? What can I do to help? I would imagine that you, like Chad, Chad did this as a McLean County resident, as a taxpayer, as a former candidate. Yes, of course, as a former candidate, when your opponent is out there possibly allegedly illegally collecting funds on behalf of a campaign, it begins to raise a bunch of question mark, raise your eyebrows a bit. What if she did that in our race? She was willing to do it in the race for eliminating the county auditor position. Was she willing to go around with the bucket in the county offices and solicit funds for her race in County Board District 5? Hey, vote Lizzie Johnson, contribute $5, man, to my race. Did she do that? We don't know because there's no investigation. We don't have the facts yet. But you can't deny, right? It's kind of weird that we can't find this PAC. We can't find where those collected funds went to. Clearly, Trevor Sierra, he had a couple of donations there. I want to know where donations went. Ultimately, they were refunded to Sierra, but multiple people, probably like Sierra, contributed to this fund. And I want to know where that money went. Did it actually go to a PAC established in support of this referendum to eliminate the county auditor position, or did it go to Lizzie Johnson's campaign coffers? We don't know. We need an investigation. And Chet Burke, he's filing this complaint, of course, with the Illinois State Board of Elections. He also is taking a copy to the state's attorney. He's also taken the complaint and given it to the McLean County McLean County Ethics Commission. So there's an ethics commission, and the way that this ethics commission is supposed to be drawn up, I suppose, is after sending a letter saying, hey, I complain about this person, there has to be an ethics commission that forms, and those people are appointed by the chair. And it's like a 3-person team, and they kind of review the complaint, and then they make a ruling on the complaint. Okay, and the ethics commission, I believe, is made up of McLean County board members. Very interesting that Catherine Metzger resigned amidst all of this. I'm not saying it has anything to do with it, but if I was on the McLean County board, I'd probably resign too. I'd be pretty much done with all of these shenanigans. I'd be like, this is just an unprofessional environment. I can't work here. And Chet Burke, I love what he says here. He says, say you're a maintenance guy for the county. Say you're county administrator, effectively your boss or the vice chair of the county board is going around collecting donations. You're going to put up $100. You wouldn't hesitate. You don't even really know what it's for. It could be for Girl Scout cookies. You have no idea, but you're like, oh, my boss is asking for money. I'll chip in. I'll do it. And you're using your influence. You're abusing your leadership position. At State Farm, in the private sector, you as a boss, if you go around collecting money for your kid's baseball team, you will be escorted out. You will definitely be fired. This kind of stuff doesn't happen in the private sector, because there's accountability, and there needs to be accountability, because if there isn't, fast forward to the next election cycle, next time it won't be the county referendum eliminating the county board or eliminating the county auditor position. Next time it could be Elizabeth Johnson going around and collecting money for her campaign. Okay, I'm just saying, if you don't hold people accountable for this, if the investigation turns out that they did in fact collect funds illegally or solicit funds illegally, there needs to be accountability, and people need to be forcibly removed from their positions of power after that, if the investigation turns up that they were in fact collecting funds illegally. So Chad Burke, he said he's shocked amidst these allegations that the county board actually unanimously, so Republicans, Democrats, voted for Elizabeth Johnson to be chair amidst these allegations. So here's what he says. I love this. Look who's in the courts right now for doing this times 1,000. Michael Madigan, the longest-serving legislative leader in modern U.S. history, and it's ridiculous what he's gotten away with. This is just a small tadpole in the pond, and this is how it starts. How did Michael Madigan get to where he's at today? Okay, ultimately he was caught and he's in the courts, but he's probably going to get away with a whole lot. But how did he get to where he is today? Well, it's by illegally collecting and soliciting funds using his position of power. Okay. And he got to where he was, the longest serving legislative leader, and he got to be Speaker of the House for the government of Illinois, right? The state government. He didn't get there by being a nice guy. Okay, he got there by illegally soliciting funds and collecting funds using his position of power. And he started out, probably like a county board member doing this very thing that all of these officials are accused of. And he probably was doing it for his own campaign. Who knows, right? I mean, you don't get to be the longest serving legislative leader in modern U.S. history by being a nice guy. And it's ridiculous what we're allowing people to get away with. And I like how Chad Burke said that. So on top of the complaint with the Illinois State Board of Elections he's planning on filing, he also is filing a complaint with the McLean County Ethics Commission because the alleged incident violates the county ethics code as well. Do want to take a break. We're going to talk about Dick Durbin. He was on the Senate floor and he's urging Congress to pass the DREAM Act. What the DREAM Act would do is protect, what he says, protect dreamers, DACA recipients. Okay, I hate calling them dreamers. They're DACA recipients, and DACA stands for Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals Program. Okay, they're here on DACA. And you need to know that the average age of a recipient Now, this is the average age, which means there might be slightly younger, but there are also older people who receive this. The average age is 30. Okay, so about 30 years old, you get here on DACA. Okay, so this isn't children coming to this country. But what Dick is wanting to do, he wants to pass the DREAM Act because he's worried about the second Trump administration as it quickly approaches. So we're going to get to that story here next. Text me 309-451-9299. I'll be right back. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Dickie Dick. Dick called Trump's rhetoric surrounding immigration dangerous. Yes, so he says, "Oh, Trump's dangerous rhetoric. I'm worried for the immigrants and for the future of this country." The title of this is really interesting because Dick wants to protect dreamers as the second Trump administration approaches. This guy is freaking out. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, Dick probably, he gets up there and he, talks about this one woman, and I forget her name, Dulce Martinez is her name, and she's a mother and an educator, and he has this really sad story, or this specific story about a dreamer, okay? He didn't share the story about the dreamer Gabriel Calixto. Okay, now he's been criticized for taking a photo with this dreamer. This dreamer, who is now a runaway murder suspect, and he's accused of stabbing Emma Schaefer of Springfield. Okay, so Dick is going to get out there on the floor and he's going to cry about these dreamers, and he's going to say, "Oh, these dreamers are not criminals." And now I don't know the statistics or the numbers, but some of them are criminals, okay? And we should be deporting people if they commit crimes, like Dick Durbin had said. He said, I'm not talking about the people who commit crimes in this country. They should be deported. I'm talking about, people like Dulce Martinez. Okay, but here's the thing. People like Gabriel Calixto come here on programs like this, and they get to stay in this country and serve their time in this country if they commit heinous crimes. He served time in the IDOC Calixto, that is. I think it was like until in 2018, while here on DACA status, he pled guilty to kidnapping a girl, and he served time in the Illinois Department of Corrections. So that actually happened, okay? And he was here on DACA. So clearly this program is not as great as Dick says it is. There's clearly flaws with it. And we're not talking about, legal migrants. There's obviously a flawed system where you've got people here on DACA and they still manage to get into this country under the guise of DACA, and then they kill women and they kidnap women. Okay, so Dick will talk till he's blue in the face about people like Martinez being able to stay here in the country, which I'm not saying Martinez shouldn't stay in the country. However, the DACA program is flawed, it's broken, and there's better ways of seeking legal status here in this country outside of DACA. And we need to keep in mind that people like Gabriel Calixto abuse the DACA program and use it to their advantage to get into this country and harm young women. And passing this DREAM Act, which would only strengthen that DACA program, is problematic, because that DACA program, like I said, is flawed. And I don't mean strengthen as in like make it better. I mean like strengthen as in enshrine what's currently in place with the DACA stuff into law, and to give it more power so that way people can abuse that power from the DACA program, like Gabriel Calixto. So we're going to talk about Dick Durbin. I want to play some audio from him on the floor. I also want to talk about Dr. Janet Nashwatt. So she was a former Fox News contributor. She's also a practicing doctor, and she is the worst cabinet pick. Donald Trump had some really good cabinet picks, but this one is bad. And I'll get to why here in just a second. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Aw, little Dickie. Dickie, he's out there on the Senate floor and he's crying about Trump. His rhetoric is just so dangerous. I'm just so worried about the incoming Trump administration, and I'm worried about his mass deportation policies. They're chaotic and cruel. Give me a break. So here we have Dick Durbin, Senate floor. He's urging Congress to pass the DREAM Act. I really can't stand the DACA program. It's ridiculous. Even the name is stupid. Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals Program. You know, the average recipient of a DACA status is like 30. Okay, so it's not children. It was originally set up to, tug at your heartstrings and say, oh, we want children to come to the United States. We want young children to come to the United States and have a chance, right? It's all about feels and not the reals, right? So Dick Durbin, he called Trump's rhetoric surrounding the immigration policies dangerous. And he said he's worried for immigrants and the future of the country. So let's take a listen to Dick here on the Senate floor. Here we go.
Even consider it and debate it. Unfortunately, we haven't made much progress since. Today, as we hear dangerous rhetoric from the president-elect about immigration, I worry for the immigrants and for the future of our country. We can all agree that any undocumented immigrant found guilty of a serious crime should never be allowed to stay in the United States. But the last time the president-elect was in office, it wasn't just criminals who were deported. We saw parents separated from their young children, some of them still separated to this day. And we saw dreamers, veterans, and spouses of U.S. citizens deported. They weren't criminals. Many of them were pillars in their home communities. Next week, I'll hold a hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee focused on the chaos and cruelty that President-elect Trump's promised mass deportations could bring to our communities and our country. I rise today to highlight one of the dreamers whose loss would deeply impact her community and her family.
Okay, so he's going to share, this little sob story about DeLucy Martinez, who sounds like a wonderful woman. I'm not disparaging her in any way, but Dick will not get out there and talk about a man who I've talked about on this program several times, Gabriel Calixto, who is a dreamer, wasn't deported, and killed a girl, allegedly, Emma Schaefer. He's on the run. We have no idea where he's at. I don't even think that he's been prosecuted. I guess he fled back down to Mexico. We have no idea where he's at. And he stabbed this girl in Springfield, allegedly. And he pled to kidnapping in a different case, a separate girl, a few years ago. So he came to this country on DACA. He abused the program, which it's designed to do. He abused the program, and he managed to kidnap a girl and then murder a separate girl. Okay, so he came here, abused the DACA program, and he wasn't deported, by the way. The Department of Homeland Security knew that he was here. He was actually in custody. How did he manage to get out of the custody of the Department of Homeland Security? I don't know, but he managed, obviously, to get back either into the United States through the open border under Joe Biden and kill, allegedly, Emma Schaefer of Springfield. So State Representative Adam Niemerg said it's chaotic and cruel to allow 20 million military-aged men to come to this country, whether it be through DACA or whether it be through temporary protected status or whatever it is. And I'm not saying, work visas or travel visas, school visas. There's different programs that aren't abused and that are, more stringent programs to get into. But you have to prove that you offer something in order to have some sort of temporary status or some sort of temporary legal status. Okay, you have to prove that you actually give a damn about this country if you want to be here. Okay, and DACA is deeply flawed, and it doesn't allow you to prove that you care about this country. And it just allows you to come on in. And like I said, it's not people who want to seek a better life. Most of the time, it's these military-aged men like Gabriel Calixto who take advantage of the system and want to be here to hurt women. Okay, so Like what Adam Niemerg says, he says, where was he with Lake and Riley's murder? This poor girl was drug into the woods, beaten to death, and he sits there and says that it's chaotic and it's cruel when it comes to Trump's mass deportation policies. Chaos and cruelty is what happened in Lake and Riley. Dick Durbin should not be against deporting dreamers who commit violent crimes. But and he says he isn't. He says, yeah, we can all agree that people who commit crimes and who are guilty of crimes and are convicted in this country should be deported. But that's not happening. It's not happening, and he doesn't talk about it, Dick Durbin. He'd rather get up there and say that it's chaotic and cruel for Trump to mass deport. And he's going to start with the convicts and the criminals. That's what Donald Trump has been talking about, is let's start with the criminals and the convicts. Let's get them out of the country. So Durbin, he's been criticized for taking a photo. Now, on YouTube, Rumble, I'm there. He's been criticized for taking a photo with Gabriel Calixto. You can see the photo. He is he's photographed smiling with Gabriel Calixto, who is now a runaway murder suspect accused of stabbing Emma Schaefer of Springfield, Illinois. Like I said, Calixto was granted DACA status at the age of 15. That expired in May of 2019. But in 2018, so while he was in the U.S. on DACA status, he pled guilty to kidnapping a girl. He served time in the Illinois Department of Corrections. He didn't serve his entire 6-year sentence, by the way. He only served a couple of years because he got it pled down, like he was resentenced with time served, and it was unlawful restraint instead of kidnapping. And he got it kind of overturned, his conviction. Don't know how, why, what. But point is, he was released from the IDOC, and then he managed to get into the Department of Homeland Security's custody, where he was supposed to be deported. Don't know if he actually was deported. Perhaps he was, and then he just came over the open border under the Biden-Harris administration. Don't know, but somehow he managed to get out of DHS custody, and whether he was deported back, came over the open border, it was only a year or so. So I don't know what happened, if they actually deported him or what, but he managed to get back into the United States, or was in the United States, and he managed to allegedly kill Emma Schaefer by stabbing her to death. Okay, so Durbin, he likes to share this story of this specific woman, right, on the floor, DeLucy Martinez, and I'll play the clip a little bit more here on the other side, but he talks about Miss Martinez and her life experience educating and inspiring young people, and she's the embodiment of the American dream. Sure, maybe there are some people on the DACA program that are actually good people, but guess what? DACA is a deeply flawed program that allows these people to come over and commit illegal activity like Gabriel Calixto, and this DREAM Act would only perpetuate the abuses of that program. And I've got to take a break, but we're going to come back. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. Then I'm going to shift gears. We're going to talk about a pick that I can't stand. It's a cabinet pick of Donald Trump's. Jeanette Nashawat. She's a practicing doctor and a former Fox News contributor, but we're going to get to it here next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, good morning. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Old Dick. Oh boy. The rhetoric wasn't a problem when Clinton and Obama were saying the same thing. Yeah, they actually said the same thing, that there needs to be deportations. I think Eric Adams, actually, a couple of days ago, I forget what program he was on, but he was talking, I think it was The View. It was either The View or some leftist channel, I don't know. And he was talking with these people, and he was saying, yeah, well, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they all did the same thing that I'm saying now. But you guys didn't go after them or try to cancel them, the woke mob, right? Illegal entry is a crime, exactly. Now, it's kind of tough because this DACA thing, are you illegal if you're a DACA recipient? No, technically, I guess. But there are no, you have to prove that you want to be here, okay? And there's other things like a work visa or school visa or things, or green card, right? You're getting married to somebody here in the United States, and I mean, there's all kinds of different things that prove that you want to be here. DACA is a deeply flawed program, and it's abused by people who want to come to this country only to cause havoc and to commit crimes. So we need to get rid of DACA. There's plenty of other programs where people can seek temporary legal status, and those programs actually require you to prove that you give a damn about the country and that you want to be here. Do want to talk about this new pick for Donald Trump. She's the Surgeon General pick, and some parental rights groups are not happy with President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Surgeon General. I'm not happy with her either. She pushed the CDC recommendations that the children mask up. She pushed mask mandates for children, which is really an issue. And then you've also got her, suppressing, I think, now she was a big proponent of hydroxychloroquine, but a lot of these people who are pushing the mask mandates and the vax mandates or the vaccinations, they were suppressing information about ivermectin, vitamin D, all of these great things that actually contribute to suppressing the spread of COVID-19 or stopping the spread of COVID-19. Okay. And she was not out there. She wasn't like the Florida Surgeon General, which I also really like him and have high respect for him. His name is Joseph Ladapo. He saw all of this very early on, what actually contributes to slowing the spread of COVID, what is actually effective treatment. And Marsha McCleary, who is the Lake County chair of the Moms for Liberty organization, she said that that's somebody I would have loved to seen in this position. Me too. I think it's going to take a lot of time for people to get over the fact that you had Jeanette Nashwatt for a year and for years. I mean, for a couple of years. So from 2020 to 2022, that's when she kind of recanted or apologized for pushing the mask mandates and saying that there was an unnecessary nature to some of these earlier mandates. And it took her until 2022 to start to admit that, when doctors like Joseph Ladapo, the Surgeon General of Florida, very early on, like in 2020, he was talking about all of that is a bunch of hogwash, and critics are saying that it's too late. Jeanette Nashwatt, it's too late. She should have scrutinized the CDC's handling of the vaccine rollouts and mandates earlier than when she did in 2022. So we're going to talk about all of that. I do also have so many other stories. I've got to talk about Pete Hegseth, how he's saying he's being Brett Kavanaugh'd. Okay, so he's being Kavanaugh'd, and they're referencing, of course, the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, his confirmation hearings. There was a rumor that someone had started. It was an accusation against Brett Kavanaugh. And I guess it was like a sexual abuse allegation from when they were in college. That was Christine Blasey Ford, I think it was. Blasey Ford. Ford claimed that Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her in college, but she didn't know where, she didn't know when, she didn't have any evidence, she couldn't even remember when it happened. Okay. So she was making the allegation and the accusation, and Kavanaugh was a man. That was enough for them to run with this, the media. They tried to paint him as some sort of sexual deviant or some sort of criminal, right? But they stuck to the plan, and they weren't going to be bullied into submission. And him and Donald Trump pulled it off. Now he serves on the Supreme Court. So they're doing the same thing with Pete Hegseth. They're going to do the same thing if they did it to Matt Gaetz. Okay, they did it to Matt Gaetz. They're going to try to do the same thing with Pete Hegseth. If they do it to Pete Hegseth, they'll do it to RFK. They'll do it to Tulsi. And it's just baloney, because up next, you're going to have Kash Patel, too. I mean, I'm counting down the days until Kash Patel has some sort of sex allegation waged against him from the left. Oh, Dick. Oh, Dick Durbin. He's out there on the Senate floor and he's talking about how, oh, the dreamers, we have to protect the dreamers. We have to protect people like Miss Martinez, who uses her own, quote, life experiences to educate and inspire young people. She's the embodiment of the American dream. Would America be better off if she was deported? Of course not. Look, I'm not saying that the DACA program doesn't have good apples in there, but there's a lot of bad apples, and the program is deeply, deeply flawed, and we need to get rid of it, and we shouldn't be passing things like the DREAM Act that only empower that system and that program. So Durbin says this: DACA was a program put together by President Barack Obama to pave the way for Ms. Martinez to pursue her dreams. It might have had good intentions in the beginning, sure, but it's definitely not resulting in there's no benefit from having DACA. Let me just put it that way, okay? There's no benefit to the United States for having the DACA program. DACA brings more trouble than what it's worth, okay? But DACA was intended to be temporary stopgap until Congress did its job to fix the broken immigration system by law. Durbin goes on the Senate floor. He says, but since President Obama established the program, Republicans have waged a relentless campaign to overturn DACA and deport these dreamers back to their countries that they don't even remember. Okay, you got to be kidding me with all of this. So DACA, there's plenty of programs, and the reason why Republicans have tried to overturn DACA and try to get rid of it is because it's unlike all of the other good programs. So like work visas or student visas or things like that. You have to prove you want to be here. Okay. And DACA doesn't force you to prove you want to be here, and it doesn't give you any kind of roots in America. And unfortunately, you have people like Gabriel Calixto who can get into the DACA program and be a DACA recipient and have DACA status, and then they abuse it. They only come to this country to harm women. He kidnapped a woman, served in the IDOC. Then he was released into the Department of Homeland Security custody, but then managed to get out somehow or re-enter the United States through the open border under the Biden-Harris administration. Really don't know. It's kind of unclear. But he managed to hurt another woman here in the United States, here in Illinois. Actually, Emma Schaefer. So Durbin says, quote, now this program is hanging by a thread in the courts. Well, there's a reason why there, Dick. It's hanging by a thread because it sucks. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I'll be back at the top of the hour with this story and more. Do you hear that? Joe is trying to issue more pardons for Liz Cheney, for Tony Fauci. You got to be kidding me. And Chuck Schumer, or not Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff. He wants to issue all of these preemptive pardons, which he can do as the president, but it's wrong. All right, you're listening to Conservative Cat. Go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to talk a little bit about Dick Durbin and this DACA program. Like I said, he says, oh, DACA has been relentlessly attacked by Republicans. This is what Dick Durbin says. And he goes, now the program is hanging by a thread in the courts due to legal challenges from Republican states attorney general. And then you have the DACA recipients who are forced to live with uncertainty day to day. Gabriel Calixto, a dreamer, right? He doesn't talk about that story. He'll only pull the good stories, like the Miss Martinez stories, right? He didn't pull the story about Gabriel Calixto, how he was here on DACA and how he managed to kidnap a girl, and then also ultimately stab a different girl, allegedly. So Gabriel Calixto in the Department of Homeland Security custody after serving 2 years in the IDOC and getting the kidnapping charge lowered to unlawful restraint. He was resentenced to time served in 2020. It's unclear how and if Calixto was released from the DHS and how he managed to possibly commit another crime in 2023. State Representative Adam Niemerg said Illinoisans are fed up with illegal immigration. Yes. We are fed up with illegal immigration, and I don't care how much sweet talking you do, Dick, about the DACA program. We all know that ultimately there is no benefit to the DACA program. We all know that people come to this country and abuse the DACA program and use it to kill people and hurt women. Okay, largely it's 30-year-old people who are using this. It's not a childhood arrivals program. Give me a break with all of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, you've got, oh boy, you've got this pick. I want to talk about the Trump pick as well. Parents don't like this pick. I do want to talk about Joe Biden giving pardons. And he's going to be doing this in a very corrupt way. He's giving preemptive pardons to, who is it? Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff. Then you've got who else is there? Tony Fauci. I also want to talk about Pete Hegseth. He stands defiant with Megyn Kelly, defiant in this Megyn Kelly interview, and he talked about how he is being Kavanaugh'd, which is a perfect descriptor of what he's going through. I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Woo! Hey, it's Friday, so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Yes, it's 7:05 a.m. What have we talked about so far? Well, we've chatted a lot about the former county board candidate Chad Burke and how he's filing an official complaint with the Illinois State Board of Elections. Woohoo! He's alleging that the McLean County officials violated the Campaign Disclosure Act. And I say woohoo because finally somebody has the cojones to go out there and to hold these people's feet to the fire. And he officially complained to the State Board of Elections. But on top of that, he's complaining to the McLean County Ethics Commission because not only did they allegedly violate state law, the Campaign Disclosure Act, but they also allegedly violated the ethics code, the McLean County Ethics Code. And by they, I mean Lizzie Johnson, the now chair, and the county administrator, Cassie Taylor, who were named in this email typed up by Trevor Sierra, the guy who used to work in the state's attorney's office. Not sure why he was terminated. Did it have something to do with this? I don't know. But he, was alleging that they were soliciting and collecting funds for a PAC established to support the referendum, eliminating the county auditor position. Here's the problem. The county auditor position PAC, the PAC that was established to, support that referendum, does it exist? We don't know. There has to be an investigation done because Chad Burke, who ran against Lizzie Johnson in 2024 and was defeated, he said, look, I can't deny if Lizzie Johnson used those collected funds for her own race, in her own race against me. We don't know because we can't find the PAC. And look, my family worked hard. Randy Knapp worked hard, who was the other candidate that was defeated by Johnston. We worked hard on this campaign, and we don't know if these funds were like collected and then used in Lizzie's campaign, or if they were actually used in this PAC that was established to support the referendum. We can't find the PAC. And look, campaigns, elections, they are vital for this country, and we cannot have shenanigans. That's Chad Burke. So we talked a little bit about that. We are also talking about Dick Durbin this morning. He was on the Senate floor urging Congress to pass the DREAM Act. I told you that the DACA program sucks. So Gabriel Calixto was pictured with Dick Durbin, and Dick Durbin's been criticized for this photo. Gabriel Calixto is a runaway murder suspect, and he's accused of killing Emma Schaefer in Springfield, Illinois. Still don't know if they caught the guy. Maybe he fled back down to Mexico. Who knows? But Dick Durbin, he got out there on the Senate floor and he, touted this story of this dreamer, DeLucy Martinez, who's a mother and an educator. And I get that. Maybe there's some good people on the DACA program, but ultimately, it's a loser, the DACA program. Okay, you might have a couple of good people who want to, come to this country and do some good, but ultimately this program yields some really bad people like Gabriel Calixto, who was on here on DACA status. He was in the United States on DACA status, managed to kidnap a girl, wasn't deported after the kidnapping. Okay, he served time in the Illinois Department of Corrections. And then he gets out, and then he gets into the DHS custody, but somehow manages to still remain in the country, wasn't deported, and then he manages to possibly commit another crime with a different girl, and he stabbed her to death, Emma Schaefer. So, oh boy. So before we took the break, I was telling you about what Dick Durbin said on the floor. He says, but since President Obama established the program, Republicans have waged a relentless campaign to overturn DACA and deport these dreamers back to countries that they don't even remember. Look, folks, a lot of the DACA recipients are 30 years old. What do you mean, deport them to countries that they don't even remember? These aren't children on this program, okay? They are, this program, being a DACA recipient or being granted this status, this temporary legal status through the DACA program, you're not a child, right? And it's not like they don't even remember these countries. The average age of a DACA recipient is 30 years old. Give me a break, Dick. So then he says, now this program is hanging by a thread in the courts due to legal challenges. Legal challenges from Republican state attorneys general, and the DACA recipients are forced to live with uncertainty day to day. Just get on a work visa, get on a student visa. What are you going to do? What's tying you to the United States? These temporary status, temporary legal status programs they should ensure that we're getting people who want to be here and who have actual ties to the community, and DACA does not do that. Gabriel Calixto, like I said, he managed to get out of the custody of the Department of Homeland Security, whether they deported him, and then he walked back over the border like instantly over the Biden-Harris administration, because by then it would have been 2022-3, which was the open border crisis. He could have walked back over after being deported. We don't know. He was in custody. Don't know if he managed to get out of custody somehow. But he was resentenced, like I said, from the IDOC to a lesser charge of unlawful restraint from the kidnapping charge. And he was resentenced to time served in 2020. Shortly after that, the DHS got him into custody, but then somehow, and I don't know how, it's kind of unclear how he was released from the DHS and if he was deported back to his country. But he managed to get back into the United States and commit another crime in 2023, possibly, and that's the stabbing of Emma Schaefer. I like how Adam Niemerg puts it. He says, Illinoisans are fed up with illegal immigration. Yeah, you and I, it doesn't matter how they spin the DACA program, okay, folks? Doesn't matter how they spin it. We know, I know that you know, and I know that we all know that we need to deport criminals. And the DACA program harbors criminals. And Niemerg says, quote, now he's saying we need to deport criminals. The folks that have been prosecuted, well, they're already criminals by being here illegally. So he's saying, Dick Durbin, he actually came out and said this, which is really interesting because you've got Eric Adams, you've got Kathy Hochul. They're saying now that they have no problem deporting people who are convicted, who come to this country and commit a crime like a stabbing or a rape, like in the case of Lake and Riley. They've got no problem deporting criminals. But look, folks, just because they're prosecuted for something like if they they're already committing crimes by being here illegally. Okay, it's called illegal immigration. Entering the country is illegal. You're a criminal by already just being here. So that's what Adam Niemerg says. Reportedly, federal authorities believe Calixto has fled to Mexico after the death of Emma Schaefer, but we don't know. The average age of DACA recipients is 30 years old. You guys need to know that. It's not like these children who are coming to the country. Absolutely ridiculous. All right. I do want to talk about the Surgeon General pick. This is the worst pick for Donald Trump. I hope that I don't foresee it happening, but I'd love to see her kind of say, hey, I'm not going to take the nomination, or I'm not going to accept the nomination. A resurfaced video of Nashawat. So her name is Janet Nashawat. She's a practicing doctor. She was a former Fox News contributor, and she is the worst pick. So here's actually Pete Hegseth, which is kind of funny. And we're going to get to Pete a little bit later because he's being Kavanaugh'd. Pete Hegseth, and this is Janet Nashawat. This is a resurfaced video, and she takes a favorable position here when it comes to the masking of children. This was the CDC's recommendation that we mask up children and we force children to be masked. Here she is, a proponent of mask mandates, Janet Nashawat, who is the pick for Surgeon General by Donald Trump.
And what it is now, COVID, this new Delta variant hits right before school starts, and our top priority should be getting kids back into the classroom, but doing so safely. Here's the problem. Delta is different, and that's why the American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending that if you're going to be in a classroom, in a crowded classroom, then you want to protect yourself, wear a mask, because a lot of kids, for example, under the age of 12, they can't be vaccinated. So it's important to point out, though, masking is not the only solution. We also need to make sure that we have good ventilation, that people are washing their hands, that they're getting tested, and that all the teachers are getting vaccinated as well. But what's happening is this new Delta variant, it replicates more easily, and it's more contagious. You can have up to 1,000 times more viral particles. So kids can pick it up, even though they may not have severe symptoms, they can spread it to another person. And when it spreads is when the virus mutates. And that's when we get more variants like Delta and Lambda and the UK variant and what it is now.
Oh boy. Okay. So you've got parents out there and me, we're saying, hey, you should probably decline the nomination, lady. We should probably put somebody in there who did not hold favorable positions on masking and vaccination mandates. We should put somebody in there who was not favorable to those positions and to those policies, the mandates. We need to put somebody in there to fill the role of Surgeon General who wasn't like you, okay, during that time period. So Moms for Liberty, Lake County Chair Marsha McCleary, who worked 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry, okay, has kids, right? Moms for Liberty. And moms were deeply affected by this, by the way, the masking of children. Sending your kid to school with a mask was heartbreaking if you did it. If I had children back during COVID era, I would not have done it. I'm just going to be honest with you. There's no way I'm putting a mask on a poor baby's face. They need to breathe. It wasn't affecting children, COVID-19, like it was the elderly. And masking up children, we know now, was not effective. There was no reason to mandate that on kids, but Nashwa's past support of the mask mandates is concerning. Here's what Marsha McCleary says. She's with Moms for Liberty here. Someone I highly respect, Joseph Lopato, who was the state surgeon general of Florida, he saw this very early on. He saw that the masks mandates didn't work. And that was a person I could probably see in this position. It's going to take a lot of people, a lot of work for people to get over this Jeanette Nashwatt. The fact that she, for a year and a half, over a year and a half, I think it was like 2022 when she finally recanted and publicly acknowledged that it was unnecessary. The nature of some of these mandates were unnecessary. And the social distancing, the masks, mandates, all of that was very unnecessary. And she started publicly acknowledging that in 2022. But you had doctors like Joseph Lopato who came out very early on, like 2020, and said, this is all ridiculous. Doesn't affect the kids the same way. We shouldn't be masking them up and forcing vaccination down people's throats. And, you know, McCleary, she points out that it's really weird that we have RFK Jr. on one side, and we have Trump picking this Surgeon General, and she's very different. She has a very different perspective, obviously, during that time period than RFK Jr. did. So we know that RFK Jr. is the Health and Human Services Secretary pick. Nashwatt did come out strongly for the mass social distancing and COVID vaccination for kids, and she applauded Meta for their censorship of experts. Okay. There were doctors, there was a list of doctors who came out and said, hey, things like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, vitamin D, things that, actually stop the spread of COVID-19 and are actual effective treatments of COVID-19. She was part of that group who commended Meta for their censorship of those people. RFK Jr. has a very different view from her. She flipped in 2022, but for me, that's too late. There were people who didn't have her level of experience. She has this whole level of experience. She's a doctor, practicing doctor. There were people who weren't experts per se in expert positions who were coming out and knew the data way more than she did. And they knew that the masking and the social distancing was stupid. So McCleary did say that there was one thing that she wanted to give kudos to Nashwatt on, was the hydroxychloroquine. Okay, now I actually got these drinks for my dad that had like hydroxychloroquine. They were like Q drinks or something like that. They had hydroxychloroquine. He got COVID real bad. He's doing so much better, and he lived. And I truly do believe it's because he wasn't vaccinated, and he didn't do the whole remdesivir thing, and he took ivermectin and monoclonal antibodies. Okay. But she came out in 2020, this Nashwatt woman. This was Trump's pick for the U.S. Surgeon General, and she said that she would, despite a lot of opposition back then in 2020, she said that she would prescribe hydroxychloroquine for her patients. And this was proven to be a successful treatment, and it was used by other countries across the world. And unfortunately, here in the United States, it was suppressed by people like Tony Fauci, Deborah Birx, and other so-called experts. But she wasn't a part of that crowd that was suppressing hydroxychloroquine specifically. And now she did suppress, and she commended the censorship of experts. Meta was censoring experts when it came to ivermectin. and all of that. But hydroxychloroquine, she was actually very early on an advocate for. So Deborah Birx, the former White House coronavirus coordinator, said on CBS that she's excited for the data on health issues that will surface in the Senate confirmation hearings for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's really disturbing that you have Birx out there saying she's excited for this data that RFK Jr. has. Shouldn't she know it, being like that she has this level of experience? And then, like, you have this Nashawat woman, and there were people without her level of experience coming out and sharing the data. You would think that Nashawat would have adopted that data and taken a different position way earlier than 2022. But they subscribe, people like Deborah Birx, and at the time, you've got Nashawat. They subscribed to political science, and they were hell-bent on the political science rather than the actual science. I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to get to Pete Hegseth. He says that he's being Kavanaugh'd. I really like that term. He's being Kavanaugh'd, and we're also going to get to Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is giving out pardons to people, and he's doing it in a very corrupt way. He's allowed to do it, but he's doing it in a very corrupt way. We're going to get to all of it here on Conservative Cat Cities, 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. I've lived in Southeast Asia. That's really cool. And immigration does not mess around at all. Their immigration policies don't mess around at all. I respected their immigration laws because I represented the USA. Yes. Good morning from Fairbury. Love you guys. In Fairbury, you guys are great. So yes, only in the United States, and it's kind of the same deal. Yesterday, I was talking a lot about tariffs, and people are all hell bent on tariffs are terrible, they're awful, and the only reason why people think that is because back during Herbert Hoover and the Great Depression, they used tariffs to try to make money. Trump can use a tariff, an extreme tariff, like say 50%, 100%, something crazy, 200% in the case of John Deere. And John Deere ultimately, after they were threatened with that in the campaign stop where Donald Trump threatened that, they said, oh, we're not moving our manufacturing to Mexico, right? Similar to this, where you've got the issue with Canada. Yesterday, I talked extensively about the lumber industry and how it's subsidized from the government, and then they can come in and dump their lumber here in the United States for cheap, and it's forcing us out of the industry. The U.S. Lumber industry can't compete, and it's artificially it's artificially bringing down their prices, or they can bring down their prices because their government, because they have these government subsidies, and we're getting shafted. Okay, in this trade deal with the lumber. Okay, the Canada can come in and dump cheap lumber, and they're outpricing our U.S. lumber. Okay, so we get shafted there. And we're not enforcing our current trade laws and making it to where, hey, you can't do that with the whole subsidy things. You're going to have to, be on an equal playing field here, and you can't just come dump your cheap lumber here in the United States because you're outpricing the U.S. lumber. And they're losing sales. We're having to lay off workers. We're closing up lumber mills. We can't do this anymore. That needs to happen, where we enforce the trade laws that are on the books. You can't have your products subsidized entirely by the government and then dump your products here for cheap. But we get screwed there and shafted there. And if you go to any other place in the world, right, they don't put up with this nonsense. They don't put up with, if it was any other country that was dishing out all of this defense for zero in return. Okay, the United States defends the world, and we get nothing in return. Canada, they said something like to the effect of like, "Oh, we're going to do 2% of our GDP, and we're going to contribute that to the defense." And we're going to contribute that to NATO, and we're going to start contributing to our own defense. The United States defends Canada. We defend their border, right? So nobody respects our immigration laws, but we go over and we respect their laws. We also respect their trade laws, and we pay for everything. And the United States is constantly getting shafted in these deals. We're getting shafted in these immigration deals because that's what this is. It's a deal. You come to this country, you're supposed to be a benefit, a net benefit to this country. You're supposed to want to be here. But unfortunately, we keep getting shafted in these deals, and I'm getting pretty sick and tired of it. That's why we voted in an America First president. Okay, so he's gonna ensure that we're not getting shafted in trade deals. He's going to ensure that we're not getting shafted when it comes to immigration, because nobody else gets shafted. Okay, nobody else has to. I think that's a pretty sick deal. If you're getting all of your defense paid for, your border is watched by the U.S. Border Patrol, okay, in Canada, for example. We pay for your defense, we pay for your existence, and then you have the nerve to screw us over in this lumber trade deal thing where you dump all of this cheap labor or lumber because your lumber is completely subsidized by the government, and there you just can't compete. There's no way you could compete with U.S. lumber mills. So as a U.S. lumber mill, that's a pretty sick deal that Canadians are getting, right? All right, let's get to Pete Hegseth. Here we go. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. Before I took the break, I was telling you about Pete Hegseth. That's Donald Trump's embattled nominee for defense secretary. He's sat down with Megyn Kelly, and he made it clear that he is ready to fight. Unlike Matt Gaetz, I don't think he's going to go down without a fight. And it's not like we haven't seen the left use this playbook before, okay? We have seen the left use this. They did it with Brett Kavanaugh. They're trying to run the Brett Kavanaugh playbook, and they're attempting to bully Hegseth out into dropping out. They did it with Matt Gaetz. They're going to do it with Pete Hegseth here, and they are doing it with Pete Hegseth. But Kelly asked him point blank if he thinks that he's being Kavanaugh'd, and here's the response from Pete Hegseth. Here we go.
Do you think you're being Kavanaugh'd right now?
I had a member not 45 minutes ago look me in the eye in private, just he and I, and say, that's what they're trying to do to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're trying to do to you. That's their playbook. Get ready for more. And they're going to make it up, just like they have so far. All anonymous, all innuendo, all rumor, nothing sourced, no verification. And they're just going to keep doing it because you're a threat to them. You're a threat to their system. You're a threat to all the things in Washington, D.C., the swamp, the things that people have rejected. You're a threat to that. And so they're coming after you. And I know that. He knows that. And when you stand firm on that, it's not difficult to just continue to fight. So.
All right, so that's Pete Hegseth, and what they're referencing here is Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing. Okay, and they're saying he's being Kavanaugh'd. If appointed, Kavanaugh would have upset the balance of the Supreme Court. Okay, so they did not want to upset the balance of the Supreme Court. They did not want to confirm Kavanaugh. So the day after his hearing, a rumor started that someone had made an accusation against him from when they were in college. Okay. Enter Christine Blasey Ford, right? You remember this. She was represented by two activist attorneys and they had a planned fundraiser, by the way. So Christine Blasey Ford, she actually planned a fundraiser for a Democrat senator. So this tells you that this was all a partisan attack. Okay, she was represented by activist attorneys. She was planning fundraisers for Democrat senators. She's clearly a Democrat, and Ford claimed that Kavanaugh had sexually assaulted her back when they were in college, but she had no evidence. She couldn't even remember when it happened, where it happened, nothing. And she was a woman making an accusation, and Kavanaugh was a man, and that was enough for this accusation to kind of stick. But they fought it. Okay, the plan was to bully Kavanaugh so bad into him getting to step down, or get Trump to pull the nomination, but it didn't work, okay, because they fought. Trump and Kavanaugh decided to fight the slander instead, which is what they're going to have to do with Pete Hegseth, because he's being Kavanaugh'd. Kavanaugh is now on the Supreme Court, so a good end to that story. But the accusations waged against Hegseth here are even less credible than the ones with Kavanaugh. So he's being Hegseth, right? Because this is even worse, because the accusations are even less credible because there is no name. They're entirely anonymous, these accusations. So he was accused of assaulting a woman. Police investigated it, and they found that the allegations weren't credible, by the way. But they're saying, oh, because he was accused and because there were allegations, right, he's not fit to become the Secretary of Defense. There's also a bunch of anonymous Fox News employees who told an NBC reporter that Hegseth likes to drink. Okay, I like to drink. Most people like to drink, right? That doesn't disqualify you from being a Secretary of Defense just because you like to drink. Kamala Harris loves to drink, and it didn't disqualify her from being the Democratic nominee, right? We know that she actually goes and gets wine from a wine club under an anonymous alias. Like she gets wine from a wine club using an alias, which is very bizarre. And I don't know too many sober people that would go to that extent to try to hide themselves when going to get wine at this wine club. But NBC, they ran this article that a bunch of anonymous, no names, Fox News employees said that he likes to drink. Okay, which I don't think that automatically disqualifies you now if he's a drunk or has DUIs and things. That'd all be proof and evidence that he is an alcoholic. But there is nothing like that. It's just a bunch of random people, unnamed, and NBC left their names out of this article that they published that said that Pete Hegseth is drunk. Give me a break. So Democrats and the media, they got their scalp. They got their piece of flesh here when it came to Matt Gaetz. He dropped out from being considered for Trump's attorney general, okay, and being the attorney general nominee. That was their freebie. Now the line needs to be drawn somewhere. Hegseth cannot go down for this nonsense, for this bull crap, really. RFK Jr. will be next if he goes down without a fight. And then they're going to go after Tulsi Gabbard. Then they're going to go after, of course, Kash Patel and so on. I'm waiting. I'm counting down the days for when Kash Patel has to deal with accusations like this. I do want to talk about NBC because this article about, Pete Hegseth being a drunk or whatever, David Bellavia, he spoke with NBC for 20 minutes. Now, this is a guy with an actual name. He founded Vets for Freedom. He hired Pete, and David told them that their story was wrong, that their story about Pete's drinking and the sex accusations, it's just total nonsense. And he was on the phone with them for 20 minutes. NBC did not name him in the story, David. They did not use one word from David. They didn't name him in the story. But this is a guy willing to use his name, and he's willing to, come to the defense of Pete Hegseth, but they won't run anything that he's got to say, which tells you all you really need to know about mainstream media, NBC. So David was also awarded the Medal of Honor, by the way. So he's credible. Okay. Now, these unnamed Fox News employees that say that he has a drinking problem, not as credible, I would say, as the guy who's willing to put his name out there and has received the Medal of Honor. I'm just saying. But Democrats in the media, they are going to go after, mark my words, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. I'm waiting for the day. All of these people, actually, there have been accusations floated about all three of these people already. I'm just waiting for them to kind of get some gas, because the media will go after Kash Patel and accuse Kash Patel probably of sexual assault of some kind. I do have to take a quick break, but Sleepy Joe, I guess he's planning on preemptive pardons for Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, and Anthony Fauci. I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about how he's planning to do that. And today's show is going to break it down. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Right out of the Democrats' playbook. Yeah, this whole sex abuse allegations or sex assault allegations. And here's the thing, it's very odd that they do this, the whole sexual assault allegations or accusations against, say Kavanaugh, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, who else? Clarence Thomas, I think it was. Clarence Thomas probably. They also did the same thing to him. They do it to Matt Gaetz, right? I mean, they do it, and you're thinking to yourself, man, this is like a really weird, it's a really weird thing to accuse somebody of. Here's what I think is actually going on. It's projection. These are your Jeffrey Epstein client list folks. Okay, let's not forget this. And they are probably just projecting what they do onto Republicans, these Republican nominees, and they're projecting that onto them. Okay, so that's the concerning part about this, because it's got to take a real evil genius to kind of come up with these allegations and accusations when they're clearly false. She couldn't even, with the Kavanaugh case, Christine, she couldn't remember when it happened, where it happened. I mean, come on, give me a break. The only reason why that even saw the light of day is because it was a woman making an accusation and he was a man, and that's all you really need in order for those accusations to stick. But, and I'm not saying, me as much as the next guy can't stand sexual predators or sexual harassment or abusers or people who commit a sexual assault. Terrible, worst crime, heinous crime. But here's the thing. I don't think that they're just crafting this up in their head creatively, right? I don't think it's a creative tactic. I think that they're actually the ones who are committing the sexual assault, and they're projecting their insecurities onto Republicans, and they're projecting their crimes onto Republicans. I do want to talk about Liz Cheney, Tony Fauci, and Adam Schiff. So President Joe Biden, his senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate on whether, this is according to Politico, to issue preemptive pardons to a range of current and former public officials who have been targeted with President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House, according to senior Democrats familiar with these discussions. Biden aides are deeply concerned about a range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments, a sense of alarm which was only accelerated since Trump last week announced his appointment of Kash Patel to lead the FBI. Patel has publicly vowed to pursue Trump's critics. This is according to Politico, by the way. Pursue Trump's critics? No. It's not Patel. It's not that Patel said he was going to prove. He didn't say that. Pursue Trump's critics. It's that he said he was going to go after people who went after Donald Trump, but have also broken the law in doing so. Okay, you can't just legal lawfare. You can't do this. And Liz Cheney definitely needs to be looked at for her role in the January 6th Select Committee. We need to look at Tony Fauci. We know that he committed crimes and that he's guilty of very, very serious crimes. And he needs to be looked at the crimes that, undoubtedly destroyed lives across this country. My own life, right? It destroyed lives, the suppression of things like ivermectin. He needs to be looked at, and he also denied doing any gain-of-function research in Wuhan, and he slandered those who sounded the alarm on it when we were saying, hey, it came from a lab in Wuhan, and people were like, no, it didn't, that's a conspiracy theory, right? He lied to Congress, claiming that infecting animals with the virus is not the same thing as gain-of-function research. Yes, it is, and they were doing it in a Wuhan lab, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Cheney should go to jail along with the rest of the unselected committee. That's what Donald Trump has said too, is by the way. And the reason why I say that they should all be going to jail is because we now have the footage. They suppressed the footage that shows people being ushered into the Capitol, the J6ers, okay? And they were sitting in prison without bail, by the way, and they didn't even commit the crimes that they were charged with, okay? They were never trespassing, they were ushered in, okay? Now, people who never committed assault, never trespassed, they were simply invited in. They were invited for pretty much a walking tour of the Capitol. They've been in prison now, and they've been deprived things like bathroom, they've been deprived clothes, and this is their political, they're prisons of war. This is a political war, and they're prisoners of war. Okay, so these people, they need to be looked at. This warrants an inquiry. Why did Liz Cheney suppress the footage? Why did all of these people suppress the footage? I think Adam Kinzinger needs to be looked at. Okay. They suppressed footage that would have exonerated these people from these crimes, and they did not release this out to the public. So I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Oh, hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. It's Friday. Text me, let me know what your weekend plans are. 309-451-9299. Sleepy Joe Biden. Sleepy Joe. He is reportedly planning on preemptive pardons, which he can do, but he's doing it in a really shady way. He's preemptively pardoning probably Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, and Tony Fauci. Today's show is breaking it down. Let's look at this article from Politico. Here we go. Politico says this: President Joe Biden's senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate over whether to issue preemptive pardons to a range of current and former public officials who could be targeted with President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House, according to senior Democrats familiar with the discussions. Okay. Biden aides are deeply concerned about the range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments, a sense of alarm which is only accelerated since Trump last weekend announced the appointment of Kash Patel to lead the FBI. Patel has publicly vowed to pursue Trump's critics. No. Patel has not said that he's going to go after Trump's critics. Okay, if you've broken the law, you should be terrified because they're coming after you. I.e., Kash Patel is coming after you. He said, here's what Kash Patel actually said. He said, people who went after Donald Trump and did it illegally, okay, and they broke the law in doing so, they should be held accountable, and I will go after them if they broke the law. So if you've broken the law, yeah, you should be terrified, okay? That's probably why these Biden aides are really, really concerned. They're like, oh no, we all broke the law. I'm kind of concerned we need to do preemptive pardons, okay? Not only did he give an 11-year pardon stretching over a decade to his son, but now he wants to preemptively pardon Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Tony Fauci. So Liz Cheney needs to be looked at for her role on the select committee, right? The unselect committee, the January 6th committee, okay? People were at the Capitol on January 6th, and they never committed assault. They never trespassed. They were simply wearing funny hats, and they were invited in by Capitol Police on a walking tour, and they were never guilty of these crimes that they were charged with. And they were held in prison without bail. And I think it warrants an inquiry into Liz Cheney, into Adam Kinzinger, all of them. Anybody who suppressed that footage, okay? They did not use the footage that shows Capitol Police ushering people into the Capitol. These people had the footage. They suppressed the footage. They need to be held accountable. That's illegal. It's illegal to do that. Hold people in prison without bails for crimes that they didn't commit, and then you withhold the footage and you suppress the footage that exonerates them. So those who could face exposure include such members of Congress's January 6th committee, Senator Adam Schiff of California, former GOP Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming. Trump has previously said that Cheney should go to jail along with the rest of the unselect committee. So Adam Kinzinger was on that committee as well. Donald Trump has said that before. And yes, they should, because these are prisoners of war. This is a political war, and they're prisoners of war, those J6ers. They were wearing funny hats, and they were ushered into the Capitol by Capitol Police. And the only person who died that day was Ashley Babbitt, and she was a Trump supporter, okay? So also mentioned by Biden's aides for a pardon is Anthony Fauci, Tony, the former head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, who became a lightning rod for criticism from the right during COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so this was from Politico. They said, "Oh, he's been a lightning rod for criticism from the right." No, there's a lot of people just not on the right, but people know that Tony Fauci lied, and as a result, people died. Okay, they lied to you. They said that the masking mandates and that the social distancing was all based in science. They came out later and said, oh, we actually didn't conduct any studies that suggested that that stuff actually stopped the spread of COVID-19 or prevented people from getting the virus. Okay, you had people who committed zero crimes, the J6ers, okay, and they were held in prison for a very long time without bail, and that was because of people like Liz Cheney, and because of people like Adam Kinzinger. They were held in jail for no reason, and they were actually deprived of things like clothes, bathrooms, all kinds of things, and they were prisoners of war, and they should not have been held. You need to look into these people because they broke the law, not because they're critics of Trump. I want to be clear, not because Tony Fauci is a critic of people from the right. Tony Fauci lied. They lied about ivermectin. They didn't talk about vitamin D. They didn't talk about effective treatments for COVID-19, and that resulted in people dying. Okay, and according to the left, this is nothing more than political prosecution. Not true. According to Fauci, he did nothing wrong. Oh, I'm guilty of nothing. Okay, I was instrumental in getting an effective vaccine out there for people. Tony Fauci is guilty of very serious crimes. Okay, and I'm just going to say it: crimes that destroyed my life, undoubtedly destroyed my life and others in this country. Okay. Did you lose your job because of a vaccination mandate that you weren't willing to get? That's a crime. You deprived somebody of their pursuit of happiness because you forced them to get vaccinated. These mandates were not derived from any kind of real science. It was all derived from political science. These are crimes that irrefutably destroyed lives across the country. Fauci denied doing any gain of function research in Wuhan, and he slandered people, called them conspiracy theorists because we sounded the alarm. We said, hey, it came from a lab, gain of function research, and he lied to Congress. Okay, that was one of his many crimes. He lied to Congress, claiming that infecting animals with the viruses were not gain of function research. He clearly doesn't either know the definition of gain of function research or he lied to Congress. Okay, so Fauci lied, people died. He needs to be held accountable. Liz Cheney lied, suppressed footage that resulted in people who committed zero crimes being held in prison for a very long time without bail, and in some cases without clothes on their back in a bathroom, working plumbing. Okay, they had to pee in a bucket. Okay, these J6ers. So I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal.
Biden administration. People were not pleased with the direction of the country.
Redfield says Democrats have created an advantage by drawing legislative maps in their favor. A report card from a coalition out for advancing redistricting and grassroots engagement gave Illinois an F due to map drawing that assigns voters to districts based on race and party affiliation. I'm Kevin Bessler.
Stay tuned. Your forecast is coming up next right here on Cities 92.9. The news and talk of moving to normal. News on the air, on the web. You're having on Alexa. I'm Tom Davis.
Here's the moving to normal forecast on Cities 92.9.
Meteorologist Rob Carroll, abundant sunshine, breezy at 31 today. Clear to partly cloudy, breezy 29. Sunshine and breezy tomorrow, high 44. More sunshine and breezy Sunday. It'll be milder, high Sunday close to 52. Weather change secured by the wealth management team at First State Bank and Trust, where you can schedule a free consultation to build a strong retirement plan. Member FDIC.
Save big money now at Menards. Spider Products makes innovative power tool accessories. Their bi-metal hole saw kit allows you to cut more holes faster with their patented rapid core eject system. It's designed to drop out the core with the push of a button. Right now, get a Spider bi-metal hole saw kit for only $49.98 at Menards. Sale price good through December 8th.
DHP's Garage Doors is hiring commercial and residential technicians. You can join the garage door team trusted since 1926. No experience necessary. They will train motivated applicants to repair and install garage doors. Benefits include health, dental, vision, and 401k. Mechanical, carpentry, or service industry experience is a plus. Earn as you learn. To service the best garage door customers in Central Illinois, apply today at dhpaysgaragedoors.com. dhpaysgaragedoors.com.
Need more customers walking through your door? You're right here, listening to this radio station. Here's Jake Denvers, one of the good guys who work for Chevy in Lexington, to tell you more.
The thing that's different with Freight Police Media is the fact that you really feel like they genuinely care about your business. They care about your growth. A huge reason we like advertising with Freight Police Media is the relationship we have with our sales rep. The creativity he brings is nothing but good for our store.
If you'd like to drive more customers into your business, just call us here at Great Plains Media.
This holiday season, Anchor State Bank wants to help you slay your financial goals. Maybe it's time to upgrade your sleigh. Our auto and equipment loans will have you cruising in the snow in style, no reindeer required. Merry Christmas from Anchor State Bank.
Cities 92.9 Sports.
Big day tomorrow for the Illinois State Redbird football team. They'll be taking on University of California Davis at California, 3 o'clock Saturday, trying to move on in the FCS playoffs. Hoops, the Illini are at Northwestern tonight, while Illinois State hosts Pacific Saturday. And the Bears are a 3.5-point underdog in San Francisco. I'd even take the Bears on the money line on that one. Bulls beat San Antonio 139-124 down in Texas. Nikola Vucevic pumped in a season-high 39 for Chicago. And the Blackhawks have said goodbye to Luke Richardson, fired after limping to an 8-16-2 record. Anders Sorensen, the head coach of Rockford, will take over. I'm Chris Murphy, Cities 92.9 Sports.
Woo! It's Friday, so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. You know, we talked about a whole lot this morning, and the show is always archived on YouTube. It's always archived on Rumble. You can subscribe to the channel. Now, earlier in the show, I talked about former county board candidate Chad Burke, who was defeated by Lizzie Johnson, by the way, who is now the chair of the McLean County Board. He plans to file an official complaint with the State Board of Elections, and on top of that, he's filing a complaint, or has technically filed already because he sent a letter and they have to respond. The vice chair should probably, usually it's the chair, they appoint people to the Ethics Commission, and then they kind of decide if there was a violation of ethics. Now, the McLean County officials, they are accused of violating the state law, the Campaign Disclosure Act, in this official complaint with the State Board of Elections anyway. And this all stems from, of course, that email that was sent out by Trevor Sierra, who's no longer with the state's attorney's office. He was attorney there. And in the email, he names Elizabeth Johnson and County Administrator Cassie Taylor. They solicited and collected funds for a PAC allegedly established to support this referendum eliminating the county auditor position. Here's the problem. Can't find the PAC. We don't know exactly what they were collecting money for because we don't have the financials here that says that that money that was collected went to this PAC that was established to support the referendum. Chad Burke, who ran against Johnston in 2024 for county board, was defeated, but he said, hey, look, without an investigation, I can't deny that Lizzie Johnson actually went out there, collected these funds, and then put them right back into her campaign coffers in her own race against me. You know, and you're using your position of, then she was the vice chair, now she's the chair. And then you got County Administrator Cassie Taylor using her position as County Administrator to collect these funds. And that's using, if they did this, that's using your influence, your leadership position to collect these donations. And the best way I can kind of describe this is if you work at State Farm, for example. And here's the way Chad Burke puts it. You as a boss, you go around and you collect money for your kid's baseball team. Okay, you can't do that. There's rules, there's things within the private sector that you wouldn't be able to get away with, okay? You can't go around collect money as a boss from your underlings for your kid's baseball team. You'll be escorted out, you'll be fired, you will be questioned by the higher ups, okay? This is very unprofessional what this vice chair, then vice chair of the county board did and county administrator did, if they did it. If they had done this, this is very unprofessional, okay? Say you're a maintenance guy and you work for the county, and the county administrator and the vice chair, these are your bosses essentially. They go around and they're collecting donations. Of course, you're going to give up $100, okay, because you don't want to lose your job. And heck, if you're not going to lose your job, you want to kind of garner favor with the higher ups, right? It's only natural to want to bring or to give up $100 or give up a donation so that way your higher ups think that you're a good guy, right? So Burke said he's shocked that amidst these allegations, the county board members unanimously, Republicans and Democrats, voted for Lizzie Johnson to be chair. I'm sorry, but this is just gives me Michael Madigan vibes, and it's really kind of sad that you had Republicans vote this in despite these allegations. All right. You guys have a blessed day. Have a blessed weekend. You can always text me 309-451-9299. That's going to wrap up our show. I so do appreciate you tuning in. And we'll be back again on Monday, bright and early at 6 a.m. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye. Love you.